All right, we are live. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, hey everybody, I'm Jason Hole, the founder and CEO of DoorGrow, the world's leading and most comprehensive coaching and consulting firm for long-term, single-family, small multi-residential property management entrepreneurs. For over a decade and a half, we have brought innovative strategies and optimization to the property management industry. At DoorGrow, we are on a mission to transform property management businesses, their owners, change this industry. All right, that's what we do. So we want to eliminate the BS, build awareness, change perception, expand the market, help the best property management entrepreneurs win. Now, let's get into the show. All right, so what are we chatting about today? We're going to be chatting a little bit about cold calling. So if you've ever said cold calling doesn't work, you're right. The way you were taught, it doesn't. You were taught to be polished and confident and scripted, and which is exactly why you get hung up on most of the time. Nobody wants to talk to you, or they say, just email me some info so they can get you off the freaking phone because they don't want to talk to you. So today I'm going to teach you how to sound like maybe basically how you don't have to sound that confident. You don't have to sound like you have it all put together. You don't have to sound like you know what you're doing. And you will probably get more appointments because of it. And so let me share with you how you can go about doing this now. And you're going to love this. I've coached some people that didn't like cold calling. I've been able to convince people to do it. Why cold calling? Because cold calling is a growth engine that will always work. It will always work if you put in the work. It's just a numbers game. You may do 100 dials, maybe only have 10 conversations, maybe book 1 or 2 appointments. And if you just keep doing this, you will get results eventually. I'll give you an example. 0 to 105 doors in 6 months. This was Kent Hardman, one of our clients. He was only putting in maybe 10, maybe max 15 hours a week doing this. And he was able to go from nothing to 105 units. No paid ads, no lead gen company, no tricks, no gimmicks. Just like calling people up, being curious and helpful, and just with an intention to get out to the property to take a look at it. So now a week ago, I think it was a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I brought on a BDM, was coaching her new client. I think they're like a 300 door business on the multiple. They had hired multiple BDMs through a BDM coaching company. And this was like their 4th one. The first 3 didn't work out. It was bad. I mentioned on the previous episode, and I asked her, what were you being told what to do there? Because I thought maybe it's just her. Maybe there's a problem. But she said that basically the script was to call up and pretend that they were basically call for rent by owner landlords, pretend to be a tenant, book a fake showing, or do something like this, like pretending to be interested in the property as a tenant. And then, to trick them into being able to reach the business owner to have a conversation. And I said, really? That's how they taught you to start a relationship? Because I believe that sales and deals happen at the speed of trust. This is a Jason Hole quotable. Sales and deals happen at the speed of trust. I say this all the time to my clients. Maybe somebody else said this before me. I don't know. But this is a phrase that I came up with because I really believe that you're selling trust. You're not really selling property management. And you cannot start a relationship of trust by destroying trust. That is not how you start a relationship and get clients on it as a property manager. That is the worst strategy and the worst idea. So any of the BDM coaching companies out there, maybe you guys should just cut it out. Don't teach people to do that. There are way better strategies. Steal ideas from me today. I'm going to share with you how we coach and support BDMs to get great results doing this. All right. So hopefully that's got you a little bit pumped up, a little bit excited. I'm going to get into this. Some of these things you maybe have never heard before. These are things that I use. These are tactics my team use. These are things I coach people on. And so hopefully this is a game changer. If you want to see all the details about this, check out my Substack at King Jason Hole. It's just my name. King is not my name, but then Jason Hole. KingJasonHole.substack.com. Hole is spelled Hull, by the way. So check that out. You can see my article about property management, like cold calling. It's the second article on my Substack, which is brand new. subscribe, follow me there. I'd really appreciate it. Share it with some other people you think are cool. And that would be great. I'd really appreciate that. All right. So let's get into this. So one of the first things that you want to do is you want, like when you call up, just don't be so scripted. You have 3 to 5 seconds. So the very first thing you need to do, first of all, don't lie like we were talking about, but the very first 3 to 5 seconds, this is the biggest secret. This is where you win or lose. This is where you get hung up on or not. This is where they make a decision about you to try and either just get off the call as soon as possible or to continue talking to you. You've got 3 seconds, right? So you call up and you say, hey, this is Fred, or hey, is this Fred? This is Jason over at DoorGrow Property Management, and we're calling because blah, right? You already lose. And they're thinking, oh gosh, how do I get off the phone with this person? You sound like a telemarketer because you're acting like one. And maybe you've done this 100 times, but you sound like you've done this 100 times. You need to sound like this is the first call you've ever done. And it's totally cool if you sound super awkward. Just sound like this is the first call you've ever made and you have no clue what you're doing, because that's what they care about. It's the first call you've ever made to them. That's why it's cold. And so this is the opposite of what confident, polished sales trainers will tell you. So the example I usually share, and this dates me a little bit, but for those of you that are younger, you maybe have never seen this show, but there is a show, like this detective show called Columbo. And Columbo is like this older guy. He's like, it's played by this actor. He's got, I think like one eye doesn't work, or he's got like, he's kind of cross-eyed or something, right? But he always seems like he's fumbling around. He doesn't know what he's doing with he's going through his suit briefcase and he's just confused. But he's a shark and he always gets his man. But because he's disarming and he's kind and he's a little bit confused in how he comes across, it's perception. He's not threatening, and you cannot come at people like a shark, like, hey, this is so-and-so with such and such, and I'm coming at you, right? You got to calm the freak down, right? So he always gets his man. So just adopt a tone of being curious, of being confused. And so when you're making your cold calls, just think, how can I sound confused and curious? That's it. Like, focus on that. And so it may sound like, hey, is this Fred? Yeah, I'm not even sure if you're the right person I can talk to right now, but I'm looking at this property over at 123 Sesame Street. Is that your rental property? Yeah. Well, yeah, sure. Yeah, that's mine. What, is everything okay? What's this regarding? So you've already evoked curiosity. That's the game. So you can then get into things. You'd be like, yeah, it's just, my name's Jason. I'm with a company called DoorGrow Property Management, or XYZ Property Management. And I was calling because I was curious about this property. And I was wondering if you have a tenant in there currently, if whatever, how's things going with managing it? Is this vacant? How long's it been on the market? And you're just going to be curious and you're going to be helpful. And you're going to see if they have any challenges or problems. Now, another way you can approach this, I've had a lot of clients that they're like, man, it's really uncomfortable to do cold calling. I feel super uncomfortable. And so they're trying to sound not uncomfortable. Just sound uncomfortable, like call them up and be super honest. There's this great book that I love by Kyle Cease, and it's called I Hope I Screw This Up. And he kind of touches on this. The idea is basically to just share what's going on with your inner world with people, and they can relate because now you're human. So you just say, hey, my name's Susie, and honestly, I feel really awkward calling you. I'm really bad at this. This is my first time trying this today. And I'm cold calling and I'm really terrible at this. So I appreciate some grace, or do you have maybe just a minute that you could, so I could tell you why I'm calling? Would that be okay? And most people are like, man, this is very human. This person is so human. My heart goes out to them. I can empathize with that. I've tried hard things before. It's like, just share what's going on with your inner world, and people as a human, and people say, you know what? I'm not just going to hang up on this person, or, hey, yeah, sure. You know what? I'll give you a minute before. Yeah, I've done cold calling before. I can empathize with that. When you let people know what you're dealing with, your challenges, your struggles, and you're transparent that way, it humanizes you. It makes their heart go out to you. It makes people care about you. They're invested in this interesting story that just started. Why are you doing this if it's so uncomfortable? Why would you, and you just tell them, look, I've really And I really want to connect with you and find out about your rental property and see if we might be able to help you out. I'm really good at helping investors, but I'm really bad at cold calling. Do you have a minute to chat? And you just be curious. And then from there on, your goal is to focus on being helpful, not pushy, curious and helpful. So stop selling and start asking questions. So once you're past the first 3 to 5 seconds, you've evoked some curiosity. They're interested in maybe having a little bit more of a conversation with you. Then you just want to start doing some discovery, like who's taking care of everything at this rental property? Got it. Who handles the leasing? Who handles the maintenance stuff? Who shows it when it's vacant? And if they're like, oh, I do, then you're going to ask like, well, I'm curious, you're doing all this stuff. Do you enjoy doing this? And what I find is a lot of times when you ask questions like this, they will laugh. Well, do you enjoy doing this kind of stuff? Right? Like, do you hear the confused tone that I have? And they're going to say, they might laugh and say, no, not really. But that's what you do when you're a landlord. Well, then you can get into, well, maybe you don't have to. That's what if it didn't have to be that way? Like we help a lot of investors get that stuff off their plate. That's why I have a business. And I help some of the savviest investors that are in this market. Would you be open to maybe me coming by and just taking a look at that rental property and checking it out, calling you and giving you my feedback on it and see if maybe we could help? Now, they might say, everything's great. It's not that hard. Yeah, I handle it. It's easy. I've got a little bit of help, whatever. So then you're going to say, you don't need to fight them on this. You say, it sounds like everything's going really well. I got this idea from Jeremy Miner, but it sounds like everything's going pretty well there. Like, is there anything you would maybe change if you could? This just gets them to crack the door open a bit to maybe there being a challenge or a problem. Cool. Now I'm going to share more tips here in just a second, but I want to call out our sponsor, which is Lodge, Lodg. So Lodge.ai. Lodge is the AI execution layer for property management. This is their message. We connect to the systems property managers already use and have AI agents actually execute the work across lead management, leasing renewals, maintenance, resident communications, and more. The goal is simple: help property managers grow their portfolios without having to grow their teams at the same rate. If you're looking to automate more of your day-to-day operations, come find us at DoorGrow Live or visit us at Lodge.ai, Lodg.ai. All right, back to cold calling magic. All right, so now you want to you've got a little opening. They're willing to have a conversation. They might say, you know what, I'm really busy. I got to go. You're going to try and grab a little bit more time just by asking them permission. Hey, so this is a secret. Just ask for you'll get yourself 30 more seconds to converse with them just by saying, hey, totally understand you got to go. Would it be cool if I ask you one more question? You're getting permission to ask one more question. And if they say yes, cool, you've got 30 more seconds. Ask another question, they'll answer it. And then, you know what? Wait, I've got one more question if you would. And you just keep doing that until they're like, you know what? I really got to go. If they really got to go, they'll tell you. But a lot of times they just are trying to get off the phone. And if you have a little bit more runway, a little bit more time, you'll get them to converse with you. Now, the biggest challenge a lot of times is vacancy is an obvious way in. If you can find out they're having vacancy, if they've had vacancy for a month now, a month of vacancy is like a year of management fees. So you want to make that equation, you want to make it equal that so they understand that this equates to a year of management fees so that you can get them on as a client. Say, oh my gosh, like if we can decrease vacancy even by, several weeks, our management fees basically would be free. And then you wouldn't even have to do any of it at all. We would take care of it. Another potential leak where your management basically becomes free, because a lot of times the only reason they don't have a manager are like, well, it's expensive. I want to keep money, but they don't realize time is money. They're wasting time. They have vacancy. You check their rent and you compare it inside of a tool like rentfinder.ai or something like this. And you see that they're below market rate. They should be renting out for more. Maybe they haven't. Have you raised rent in the last few years? They're like, not really. Well, my guess is based on this report I just ran on your property, you're probably at least 10% below market rate, and our management fee basically would be offset. Basically, our services would be free if we just helped you raise the rent to what it should be. And maybe you don't want to do that and be the bad guy, but That's what we do for our clients. We'll be the bad guy for you. That's our job. We take care of it. And it's a business. You got to run it like a business, and we'll help you do that. We take the emotion out of it. We help this be successful. And so basically it would be free, right? So that could be another opportunity. Now, when you're doing these cold calls, when you're doing outreach, use some jokes. So I like to make jokes with people, and I'll ask things like, do you hate money? I'm just curious. I just make jokes like this. Or I'll say things like, well, I don't hate money. I don't know about you, and they'll say, well, I don't hate money either. Cool, me neither, right? Making jokes. Humor is a sign of intelligence. So wherever you can, inject some humor, because cold callers, telemarketers, they have no humor. They're miserable. They always sound miserable. They sound dry, robotic, miserable. They have no charisma, no personality. So notice how I'm talking in this podcast. If I talk just like this the whole time, I was like, hey, this is Jason over at blah, 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 and I'm being monotone, nobody would want to listen to this. It would be really boring. So add a little bit of melody into your voice, going up, going down, stuff like this, to be more interesting. Change your volume, change your tone, get a little bit dramatic, talk loud, talk soft, right? And use some humor, inject some humor, which shows you have some intelligence and that you have some savvy when it comes to communication and connecting with others. Humor is a sign of intelligence. So, all right, now use soft language. Use soft language. Being pushy kills deals. So we want to get permission for everything. Rather than, hey, could I do this? Let's do this. We want to get permission instead of being pushy. Would it be cool if maybe I told you a little bit about how I might be able to help you with this? Or this thing? I would love to share with you maybe how this might be helpful. Would it be cool if we maybe set up a call? Or maybe ask things in the negative, because like people, it's easier to say no. So would you be opposed to us setting up a call or me coming out to your property to take a look at it and letting you know my thoughts and giving you a call while I'm there? We could FaceTime, we could Zoom call, something like this. Would that be appropriate? Would you be open to that? But if you ask it in the negative, would you be opposed to this? They'll say, well, no, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I'm not that dramatic. Like, cool, let's do the call. So that's another hack that you can use, is use soft language and then ask in the negative. Would you be against us getting on a call? Would you be against me going out to the property and taking a look at it and calling you? I know you're a remote owner. You're out of state. Would it be cool if I just drove by? Would you be opposed to that? Or would you be against that? Or would you have a problem with me going by and looking at this property, and I'll call you when I get there and share my thoughts? And maybe we could, if it makes sense, if this might be something that I could help you with, would you be open to a conversation about that? I help investors all the time get this stuff off their plate so they have more money. We run it like a business, and we get you freedom from having to deal with it. And this is what allows you to build a portfolio. If your goal is to grow this, like, would you want to get into more property if this were easier? And you may be able to convince them to get into more units, right? Okay. So this is how I would handle this. And that was Kent Hardman, who I had mentioned before, his entire strategy. You can go out, check out a previous interview that I did with Kent Hardman on our podcast and having him on, or you can join our program and hang out with him and other really cool people that are crushing it and growing their business, other cool BDMs, other cool business owners. BDMs are business development managers, by the way, salespeople. But that was his goal. Hey, could I come by and just take a look with you at the property? So if they were not remote, he would try and meet them at the property. And this goes deep. You want to go deep fast. So in person is the most important thing you could do. Second would be to go in person to the property to show you're there, show you're real, show you care, make it real to them, but you do it through Zoom, you do it through FaceTime, something like this. So it's face to face, and you just point out stuff, take a look at things, ask some questions about it. And now you're a real person, not just some person that was on the phone. That's nameless, faceless that called them, right? So now another key ingredient is never end your cold call, if at all possible, without scheduling the next one. That's the hugest secret, because otherwise they might like lead you along or say maybe they'll talk to you, but then they talk themselves out of it, or they ghost you, and it's really hard to get them on another call or reach them again, because now they see the caller ID and they're like, oh, that's the one guy, right? So always, always, always schedule the next interaction during your current interaction. This will save you a massive amount of time in your sales process. It's one of our greatest sales secrets we teach in Sales Secrets in our platform is never end a call without scheduling the next one. So otherwise they say, just call me later, and then you're following up and then you look needy, and needy is always creepy in sales. Don't be needy. Don't be creepy, right? So yeah. And so what you want to do is, if you can't get the next call scheduled, do what I call a follow-up, get follow-up permission. Hey, why don't we set up another time to get back together? It's been great chatting with you about your property, Fred. How's maybe Thursday at 2? Would that work for you? He's like, oh, I don't know my schedule. I don't have my calendar up. My kids are graduating from school. It's like, I've got so much going on, right? So then you're going to say, no worries, Fred. Totally get it. Why don't I send you my schedule link? I'll text it and email it to you. Let me make sure I have all the right info and confirm that with them, right? Let me send that over and grab whatever time works best for you. That's the language I like to use, because sometimes people feel like schedule links are saying, I'm so important, get on my schedule. So you want to say, this benefits you, right? It'll save us time going back and forth. It'll figure out time zones for us. Grab whatever time works best for you, Fred. And this is the most important piece. And Fred, if I don't see something come through in the next day or so, would it be cool, or would you be opposed to me reaching back out to get you scheduled, or my assistant to reach back out and get you scheduled, whatever you have, right? And that's follow permission. So Fred's going to say, no, that'd be cool. Go ahead. And if I forget, or if you don't see something come through, I'll book a time with you. And then you call him up. You're like, hey, Fred, I noticed you didn't have a chance to book a call. You told me to reach back out. So I wanted to see how's maybe, Friday at 3. Would that work for you? And you get the call scheduled. Okay. Now, another tactic is, when you're on the call, pre-frame. You want to paint the future. So you create an anchor. So if they're not willing to talk to you, they're not willing to schedule a call, they're not willing to engage with you, then what you want to do is you say, hey, no worries. It sounds like everything's going well with your property. Sounds like you've got things handled. But you want to create what I call an anchor a future problem to you, so that they will remember you and reach back out. So you just say, hey, no worries, Fred. Next time you're dealing with this rental in the future, and if it gets too stressful, or the tenant's calling you about maintenance on a holiday, or in the evening, you're thinking, I don't want to deal with this one more thing, just remember that we had this conversation, and that the smartest investors have property managers. You've got my info. Reach back out. I'd be happy to help you with this. Does that sound appropriate? Does that sound like a plan? And you'll say, yeah, that sounds fair. So what you do is you create an anchor, so that you state the way this works is you state some known future givens that are problems that they're just given to happen. They're going to happen. And you state the future challenge, you state what's going to happen, and you say, when that happens, remember that we had this conversation, and that I'd be happy to take that door off your plate and take care of it for you. Right? I'd be happy to manage that property for you. And they'll say, oh, okay, cool. When you create anchors like that, then that challenge happens. They go, oh yeah, I remember this. You've created an anchor. So now when it does happen, they're like, oh man, maybe I should reach out to that property manager, Jason. Right? Cool. So that would be like the third sort of thing you could do. So schedule the next interaction, get follow-up permission if that doesn't work. And if that doesn't work and they're still not willing to do a call with you or have a conversation or whatever, then just create a future anchor, right, to a problem. Cool. So I already mentioned, like, if you're doing cold calling, it's a numbers game. You got to put in the work. And getting good at this means you got to be doing a lot of it, but you also got to be testing and making changes and doing things differently. Don't do 100 calls the same, expecting a different result, right? Every conversation you do, test something a little different until you start getting good results and you find things that are working. Start with your opener, win the first 3 to 5 seconds, get really good at getting those, then get into conversations, get really good at having good conversations, then start getting appointments booked, get really good at getting these appointments booked, then on and on with your sales process, right? So typically you're going to do rough math is 100 dials to have 10 conversations to get 1 booked property visit. That's the math. So just don't get discouraged if you make 100 calls in a week. You should be doing 100 calls in a day if you can, if you really want to grow this. And if you're willing to put in the work, You will always be having conversations, reaching investors. Now, how do you build the list? How do you get a list of investors? So there's lots of different ways you could get lists, but get a list of rental properties in the area. There's lots of different ways you can do that through the MLS. You can do it through various tools. And then you need to skip trace that list and get phone numbers. So there's tools out there like PropStream, for example, propstream.com, and you need to get a good list. That's one of the first key steps is get the list. So now you can make calls. All right. So what else about cold calling? I talked about the liars. So don't be a liar. Don't trick people. Don't do any of that kind of stuff. Focus on trust. Zero lying, zero manipulation. Just be curious. Just be helpful. And it's okay to sound confused, or might even be advantageous to sound more confused than just pretending to be confident. Just be real, really real with people. The most honest thing you can do. So one last thing is the thing to understand is that cold calling is just one engine. It's just one engine out of many. And a lot of times I refer to it as the worst one. It always works though, if you put in the work. And it can get you business right away if you start putting in the work right away. But it's not the most fun. There are much higher leverage activities, much better things to create warm leads and warm opportunities. There's lots of better strategies than doing this, but I've had clients succeed at this. And so if you're listening to this, take some of these ideas. Hopefully this is helpful for you making progress in your cold calling journey and doing outreach. And reach out to us at DoorGrow if you would like to be coached each week in our mastermind, learning how to get better and better at doing these strategies, how to get better and better at cold calling, how to get better and better at outreach, how to get your business development person better and better at these things so that they aren't just staying stagnant, stuck, and your business isn't growing, right? So if you have felt stuck or stagnant in your business, you want to take your property management business to the next level. You know there's another level for you. You've been trying to do this on your own for years. That is the slowest path to growth, is to do it alone. So reach out to us at DoorGrow. I would love to help you. We love getting to do this. Sarah, my wife, and I, we love seeing people grow and succeed. This is what we're all about. And so if you would like a free training on how to get unlimited leads for free, text the word leads to 512-648-4608. Also, you can join our free online community just by going to doorgrowclub.com. Feel free to hop into there and join. It's new. We're starting our own community outside of Facebook. That's where we had it before. And if you want tips, tricks, or ideas, or to learn about our various offers, our programs, subscribe to our newsletter by going to doorgrow.com/subscribe. And if you found this even a little bit helpful, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. We'd really appreciate it. Until next time, remember, just like I said just a minute ago, the slowest